The sun of Xylaria III had just begun to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows across the palace spires. The Xylarian Empire was a civilization of elegance, discipline, and strict hierarchy. Technology hummed in every corner, from floating gardens to luminescent walls that displayed holographic messages. But in the midst of this alien sophistication, one figure stood out as unusual: human. Alex Mercer stepped off the starship with a careful, steady stride. Humans were rare in this galaxy, and their arrival always caused whispers among the Xylarian elite. Most aliens considered humans fragile, untrained, and prone to mistakes, but some saw them differently. The Council of Xylaria had requested Alex for a very specific task: personal guard to Queen Lyra, the ruler of the Empire's most powerful sector. Alex adjusted the strap of his standard-issue Xylarian security harness, noting the alien architecture around him. The palace was vast, and its corridors curved and looped in ways that defied human engineering logic. Still, his senses were sharp. He had been trained to observe patterns, to notice anomalies that others would overlook. And something about this palace already felt off. A soft chime echoed through the air, signaling the arrival of the Queen. Alex turned just in time to see her glide through the doorway, her presence commanding attention even among the highly disciplined Xylarian guards. Queen Lyra was tall. Her skin shimmered like liquid silver under the palace lights, and her eyes were deep pools of violet intelligence. She regarded Alex with curiosity, an emotion not easily worn by someone of her status. "You are the human the council sent?" she asked in a voice that was firm yet calm. Her words carried authority, but there was a trace of uncertainty behind them. Humans were unpredictable, she had been warned. "Yes, Your Majesty," Alex replied respectfully, bowing slightly. "I am here to ensure your safety in every way I can." Lyra's gaze studied him. Humans were physically weaker than most Xylarians, but there was a spark in Alex's eyes that made her pause. Intelligence? Instinct? Perhaps a mixture of both. She decided to allow him closer for now. "Follow me," she said, her steps graceful and measured. "The palace is large, and I would like you to be familiar with your surroundings. But be warned, this place is full of secrets." Alex nodded, letting her lead him through the twisting halls. The walls were alive with holographic displays, showing past conquests, family trees, and intricate schematics of palace defenses. Most guards would have ignored these details, but Alex took note. Certain doors had unusual locks, others led to dead ends that seemed intentional. His instincts told him that someone, or something, wanted certain areas hidden. As they walked, Lyra spoke softly. "You know why I requested a human guard?" Alex shook his head. "I do not, Your Majesty, but I imagine there is a reason beyond what the council told me." Lyra glanced around before speaking, lowering her voice. "My husband, Emperor Kale, is not as loyal as he should be. The council has doubts about his decisions, and I fear for my own safety. Humans, it seems, are harder to predict, and that makes you useful, observant, adaptable." Alex felt a chill at her words. Danger in the palace was not uncommon, but to hear it directly from the Queen made it real. He nodded solemnly. "I will protect you, Your Majesty, no matter what it takes." Lyra stopped at a balcony overlooking the palace courtyard. "I hope you can, human, because I do not yet trust anyone else fully." For the next few days, Alex learned the rhythms of the palace. He observed servants, diplomats, and guards. He noted small inconsistencies, doors slightly ajar, unusual patterns in Kale's schedule, and whispered conversations that abruptly stopped when he entered a room. Humans were not as naturally attuned to alien behavior, but Alex had learned to adapt. He observed, he analyzed, and he predicted. One evening, while monitoring the Queen's private chambers, he noticed something alarming. A series of hidden cameras disguised as decorative lights seemed to be pointed directly at her bed. Even stranger, the cameras were on a timer that activated during specific hours when Kale usually held private meetings. Alex's mind raced. "Something is being planned," he muttered quietly to himself. His instincts screamed danger. It was one thing to guard against accidental threats, but this was deliberate. The next day he requested a private audience with Queen Lyra. She was reviewing the Empire's daily reports when he entered. "Your Majesty," Alex began, "I have reason to believe someone intends to harm you. It would be wise not to enter your private chamber tonight." Lyra's eyes widened in surprise. "Harm me? By whom?" Alex hesitated for a fraction of a second before replying. "I believe it is Emperor Kale himself. His actions, his schedule, and the hidden devices I have observed all suggest a plan against you. I cannot be certain of the details, but the risk is real." Lyra's face tightened with a mixture of anger and fear. "Kale, my husband, would do this?" "Your Majesty, I have learned to trust my instincts. I would not advise caution without cause." She studied him carefully, her mind racing. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but she had seen the Council's reports. They praised human ingenuity. If Alex was right, then she was facing a threat closer than she had imagined. "Very well," she said at last. "I will heed your warning, but we must act carefully. If Kale suspects I know, it could provoke him further." Alex nodded. "Exactly. Discretion is essential. I suggest we prepare for tonight, ensuring you remain unseen while I investigate further." The evening descended, and the palace shimmered under soft lights. Servants moved quietly, unaware of the tension brewing in their midst. Alex stationed himself near the Queen's chamber, watching, listening, noting every movement. Hours passed. Then subtle signs appeared. Faint footsteps approaching the Queen's private corridor, the faint click of a lock disengaging. Alex held his breath. It was almost too perfect, just as he had predicted. When Kale entered the corridor, Alex triggered a small diversion, a holographic projection making it appear that the Queen had already entered her chamber. Kale paused, confusion crossing his face. Then he advanced cautiously, peering into the room, unaware that his wife was safely hidden. From his concealed position, Alex observed everything. Kale's expression shifted from suspicion to frustration. Clearly the plan had failed, at least for tonight. Alex allowed himself a small sigh of relief. He had not been discovered, and Lyra remained safe. But he knew this was only the beginning. Protecting a queen from her own husband in a palace full of intrigue would test every skill he possessed, and then some. As the night wore on, Lyra, hidden in a secure chamber prepared by Alex, whispered, "Human, you have saved me tonight. But I feel this is only the start." Alex's reply was steady, confident. "I am here for you, Your Majesty. Whatever comes, we will face it together. Humans are clever in ways that many cannot imagine. You'll see." Outside, the palace lights gleamed like stars scattered across the surface. The Xylarian Empire was vast, complex, and dangerous, but within it, a human guard and his queen had begun a partnership that would challenge expectations, outwit conspiracies, and prove that even in an alien world, humans had a power of their own, one that was clever, brave, and quietly unstoppable. The morning light streamed through the crystalline windows of the Xylarian palace, painting the floors in shades of violet and silver. Queen Lyra moved quietly along the corridors, her footsteps echoing softly. She no longer felt completely safe. The events of the previous night had confirmed what she had feared. Emperor Kale was not just distant or controlling, he was dangerous. Alex Mercer walked beside her, his human stride steady and confident. Even though he looked like any other guard, his eyes were always scanning, analyzing every detail. In a palace of deception, observation was the most powerful weapon. "Your Majesty," Alex said quietly, "we need to gather more information. One night of preparation is not enough. Kyle's plan may extend beyond what we can see." Lyra nodded. Her violet eyes reflected a mixture of determination and worry. "I trust you, Alex. But we must be careful. Kyle has influence everywhere in this palace. Even the council may not suspect him, or they may fear him too much to act." Alex tilted his head, his mind already racing. That is why humans are useful. We notice patterns that others overlook. We can predict behavior. And most importantly, we can improvise. Over the next several days, Alex and Lyra moved through the palace with caution, studying its layout, security systems, and the habits of its inhabitants. Humans were considered outsiders, but that was an advantage. No one expected Alex to notice small but critical details. He discovered a hidden set of tunnels behind the main council chamber. The doors were cleverly disguised as part of the wall, only opening when a sequence of hand gestures was performed in front of an engraved panel. These tunnels could be used for secret meetings, Alex whispered to Lyra, or for other purposes. Lyra's brows furrowed. You mean Kale could be using them to plan against me? Possibly, Alex said, or to hide evidence. Either way, we need to know what he's doing. That night, Alex and Lyra returned in secret to the hidden tunnels. The passage was long and dimly lit, with walls lined in faintly glowing symbols. Lyra touched one and saw images flash in the air. Kale speaking to a group of alien engineers testing devices she did not understand. One device in particular caught her attention, a small sphere glowing with an eerie blue light. What is that? She asked, fear creeping into her voice. Alex studied it carefully. It looks like a mind manipulation device, he said quietly. It could be used to weaken your influence, to make others act against you without their knowledge. Lyra's heart pounded. The Emperor's plan was far more dangerous than she had imagined. She had always feared his ambition, but this was a direct threat to her power and her life. Alex placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Do not worry, Your Majesty. Humans are resourceful. We will find a way to counter this without risking direct confrontation. Kale relies on predictability. We will make him unpredictable. The two of them spent hours mapping out the tunnels and observing the Emperor's patterns. Alex noted that Kale preferred to meet certain engineers late at night, when most of the palace was asleep. He also noticed that Kale often ignored small details, something humans excel at noticing. Your Majesty, Alex said, I have a plan, but it will require careful timing, patience, and trust in my methods. Can you follow my instructions without hesitation? Lyra nodded firmly. I trust you completely. I must. My life depends on it. Alex smiled faintly. Good. Humans are unpredictable because we combine logic with instinct. That combination is what will save us. The next day, Alex began testing Kale's schedule subtly. He created small disturbances in the palace, moving objects slightly, changing minor security signals. Anything to gauge Kale's reactions. The Emperor, frustrated by these subtle anomalies, began to suspect something was amiss. But he could not identify the source. Meanwhile, Lyra practiced patience, learning to trust the humans' methods even when they seemed strange. She watched as Alex predicted the Emperor's moves, setting up small traps using holograms, shadows, and mirrors to create illusions of activity. Kale began to grow cautious, double-checking everything, while Alex quietly observed, noting each reaction. One afternoon, as they reviewed the palace schematics, Lyra asked, Alex, why do humans always seem to notice what others miss? Alex leaned back, considering the question. It's simple, Your Majesty. Humans adapt quickly. We notice patterns because we can combine logic with intuition. And when something doesn't fit, we investigate. The aliens here, they follow rules. Rules are predictable. Humans are not. Lyra nodded slowly, realizing the truth in his words. She had been raised among beings who valued protocol and order above all else. But humans saw beyond rules. That was why she trusted Alex more than anyone else in the palace. That evening, they put a plan into motion. Alex had noticed that Kale intended to confront Lyra in her private chamber during the upcoming celestial ceremony, a rare event when the palace would be filled with dignitaries and holographic displays of Xylaria's history. Your Majesty, Alex said, tonight we will make Kale believe you are in your chamber while you remain hidden. I will set up holographic decoys and security diversions. He will think he is executing his plan, but in reality, he will fail without realizing it. Lyra's heart raced. "Are you sure this will work?" Alex smiled. "Humans are clever, Your Majesty. Trust me." As the ceremony began, the palace filled with a soft glow from floating lights and holographic projections. Kyle, dressed in ceremonial robes, moved confidently toward Lyra's chamber, unaware of the human guard's preparation. Alex activated the holographic decoy, projecting Lyra's image into the chamber. The decoy moved realistically, responding to the Emperor's gestures as if it were real. At the same time, subtle noises were projected in the corridors to mislead Kale's senses. The Emperor paused, noticing small inconsistencies, but he dismissed them, convinced that his plan was unfolding perfectly. He approached the decoy, prepared to execute the confrontation he had meticulously planned for weeks. Alex, hidden nearby, observed every detail. Kale's expressions shifted, from anticipation to confusion, then frustration. The holographic Lyra moved as Alex had programmed, perfectly mimicking human behavior in ways Kale could not anticipate. For the first time, Kale's confidence faltered. He realized something was wrong, but he could not identify what. Humans were unpredictable, and this human guard had outsmarted him without a single act of violence. After several tense minutes, Kale withdrew, muttering to himself, frustrated but unharmed. Alex deactivated the hologram and guided Lyra back to her secure chamber. "You see, Your Majesty," Alex said quietly. "Cleverness can be more powerful than force. Humans survive by thinking, by adapting. Kyle may be strong, but he is predictable. And we are not." Lyra's eyes shone with gratitude. "You have saved me again, Alex. I do not know how I can ever repay you." Alex shrugged modestly. "No repayment is needed. My duty is your protection. But there is one thing I want you to remember. Trust humans, Your Majesty. Our strength lies not in raw power, but in ingenuity, creativity, and adaptability. That is why we survive, and why we can protect you." As the night deepened, the palace lights dimmed, and the corridors fell silent. Kyle retreated to his private quarters, plotting his next move, unaware that a human's mind had already anticipated him. Lyra, safely hidden, felt a sense of relief but also determination. She now understood that her human guard was more than a protector. He was a strategist, a thinker, a guide in a world where deception and power games ruled. And with Alex by her side, she felt hope. A rare, precious hope that she could face the coming challenges without succumbing to fear. Outside, the palace shimmered under the stars. The Xylarian Empire remained vast and dangerous, but in the shadows of its corridors, a queen and a human guard had begun to weave a web of intelligence and strategy. Together they would face the Emperor's plots, outwit his schemes, and prove that even in an alien galaxy, human ingenuity could shine brighter than any technological marvel. The web of deception was only beginning, and the human guard was ready. The days leading up to the celestial ceremony were filled with careful preparation. Queen Lyra and Alex Mercer worked in quiet coordination, their partnership growing stronger with each passing hour. Lyra, once accustomed to following the strict protocols of the Xylarian Empire, now trusted the human guard's instincts and insights. Alex, in turn, was impressed by the Queen's intelligence, courage, and her willingness to adapt to his unconventional strategies. The palace, meanwhile, was alive with anticipation. The celestial ceremony was not merely a celebration, it was a showcase of the Empire's power, technology, and sophistication. Dignitaries from distant star systems were arriving, and every chamber of the palace glowed with shimmering light and projected holograms. It was the perfect stage for Kale's hidden plan, and Alex knew the Emperor would attempt to isolate Lyra in a way that the crowd could not detect. Alex studied the palace schematics once more, his mind racing. He had already set small diversions, subtle illusions, and holographic decoys to mislead Kale. But this time the stakes were higher. The Emperor would not act recklessly. He would anticipate deception. Humans had one advantage: unpredictability. "Your Majesty," Alex said as they reviewed the plan, "Kale will try to confront you directly during the ceremony. He expects to catch you unprepared. But humans think in ways others cannot predict. We will make him question everything he sees." Lyra nodded, her expression serious. "I trust you, Alex. What is the plan?" Alex spread a set of diagrams on the table. "First, we will use holographic projections of you in multiple areas. Kyle will see your image in places you are not. Second, I have adjusted the security protocols to make it appear as if the palace corridors are empty. Third, we will use subtle sound projections to suggest movement where there is none. By the time he realizes the truth, he will have no idea which way to turn." Lyra's eyes widened. "This is ingenious. But will it be enough?" Alex smiled, faintly. "Humans have survived by using our brains instead of brute force. Kale may have power, but he cannot anticipate ingenuity he does not understand. That is our edge." As the ceremony began, the palace thrummed with activity. Alien delegates in flowing robes moved gracefully through the halls, while holographic images of Xylaria's victories shimmered above their heads. Kyle moved with practiced composure, his eyes scanning the crowd, searching for any sign of Lyra. Alex positioned himself in a hidden observation post, controlling the holographic projections remotely. He projected multiple images of the Queen along the palace corridors, each one reacting realistically to the surroundings. Kyle's eyes followed the images, his confidence growing. "She cannot be in all places at once," he murmured to himself, frustration building as he tried to predict her next move. Meanwhile, Lyra remained safely hidden in a secure chamber prepared by Alex. She watched the holographic projections with fascination. "It's like watching a chess game," she whispered. "Every move is calculated yet unpredictable." Alex nodded. "Exactly. Humans think several steps ahead. We anticipate behavior and create situations that confuse the opponent without a single act of violence." As Kyle approached what he believed was the Queen's chamber, he paused. The hologram responded to his gestures, as if Lyra were genuinely present. Then a subtle sound projection suggested movement in the opposite corridor. Kale hesitated, uncertainty flickering across his face. Alex adjusted the projections in real time, creating new paths and shadows. Kale's frustration grew. He had planned for one confrontation, but now the palace seemed alive, unpredictable, as if the walls themselves were against him. Suddenly, one of the holographic Lyra images appeared to enter the ceremonial hall. Kale, convinced that he had intercepted her, rushed forward, but the image vanished as he approached, leaving him confused and unbalanced. Alex had timed it perfectly. The Emperor's own assumptions led him in circles. In the control chamber, Alex activated another subtle diversion. He projected faint sounds of footsteps, voices, and whispers throughout the palace. Kale's attention was divided. Every corridor seemed occupied, every room potentially hiding the Queen. The Emperor, master of strategy in the eyes of many, was now completely disoriented. Lyra watched from her secure chamber, amazed at Alex's precision. "How do you do this?" she whispered. Alex glanced at her, his expression calm. Observation, prediction, and improvisation. Humans survive by thinking creatively, by noticing what others ignore. Kyle cannot anticipate the human mind because it does not follow rigid patterns. Hours passed. Kale's movements became erratic. He double-checked doors, retraced his steps, and even consulted his advisors, who were equally baffled by the strange occurrences. All the while, the ceremony continued, dignitaries oblivious to the subtle game unfolding behind the scenes. Finally, Kale stopped near a central chamber, exhausted and confused. He realized that his plan had failed, but he could not identify the source. Every corridor, every room, every projected image had misled him. His frustration was evident, but his pride would not allow him to show weakness in public. Alex, monitoring the situation, allowed himself a quiet sigh of relief. The Queen remained safe, and the Emperor's plan had failed without a single violent confrontation. Lyra's trust in him had been validated, and the human ability to adapt and think creatively had once again proven decisive. After the ceremony, Alex guided Lyra back to her private chamber. She looked at him with gratitude and admiration. "You saved me again, and you did it without a single fight. Humans truly are remarkable." Alex shrugged modestly. "We survive by thinking. We adapt. That is our strength. Brute force is easy. Cleverness requires skill." Lyra smiled. "I can see that now. You have shown me that intelligence and strategy can be more powerful than raw strength. I never realized how valuable humans could be." The Queen and her human guard spent the night reviewing the events of the ceremony. Alex noted Kale's reactions, patterns, and mistakes, while Lyra reflected on her own perceptions of humans and their unique abilities. It was clear that the Empire had underestimated the human mind, and that miscalculation had turned the tide in their favor. "Your Majesty," Alex said thoughtfully, "we have gained an advantage, but Kale will not give up easily. We must remain vigilant. Humans are clever, yes, but we must also be cautious. The Emperor is resourceful in his own way." Lyra nodded. "I understand, Alex, but for the first time I feel hope. With your guidance, I can navigate the dangers of this palace without fear." Alex's gaze swept the corridors one last time, before he relaxed slightly. "Humans are survivors. That is why we succeed in situations like this. We observe, we adapt, and we act when the moment is right. And tonight, the moment was ours. Outside, the palace shimmered under the light of distant stars. The Xylarian Empire continued its ceremonial celebrations, unaware of the silent, clever war waged within its walls. A queen and her human guard had outwitted an emperor, proving that intelligence, adaptability, and courage could triumph over power and tradition. Lyra, reflecting on the night's events, realized a profound truth. Humans were not merely outsiders or curiosities. They were beings capable of brilliance that even the most advanced civilizations could not predict. Alex had demonstrated this repeatedly, showing that the human mind could navigate danger, deception, and intrigue in ways that even the most disciplined aliens could not. As the night deepened, the Queen and her human guard prepared for the challenges to come. Kyle would not stop his schemes, and the palace would remain a place of hidden dangers. But Lyra now understood the value of partnership, trust, and ingenuity. Humans were clever, adaptable, and unpredictable, and in a galaxy of advanced alien civilizations, that might be the most powerful skill of all. The web of deception had grown more complex, and the stakes had never been higher. Yet, with Alex's guidance and Lyra's determination, the Queen felt ready to face whatever schemes her Emperor husband would attempt next. The day of the celestial ceremony arrived, and the palace of Xylaria thrummed with excitement. Dignitaries from dozens of star systems had come to witness the grand event. Floating lights shimmered above the courtyards, holographic projections displayed the Empire's history, and intricate machinery hummed with controlled precision. Every corner of the palace radiated elegance, order, and discipline, yet beneath the surface tension brewed. Queen Lyra walked through the ceremonial halls alongside Alex Mercer. Despite the grandeur around them, her mind was focused. Every gesture, every shadow, every whisper of sound could conceal danger. She glanced at Alex, who observed the palace with the quiet confidence of a human accustomed to noticing what others missed. "Alex," she said softly, "tonight everything could happen. Kale will act. How do we ensure we are ready?" Alex's eyes scanned the crowd and the surrounding corridors. "We've prepared for every possible approach, Your Majesty, but the key is patience and adaptability. Humans are clever because we notice patterns, adapt quickly, and act when the time is right. We will use every advantage we have." Lyra nodded. "I trust you." The ceremony began. Music filled the air, a blend of alien harmonics and resonating frequencies that humans could feel as vibrations in their chest. Delegates from distant worlds moved gracefully, their voices polite but observant. Alex positioned himself in a hidden observation post, monitoring the holographic projections he had set up. Multiple decoys of Queen Lyra moved throughout the palace, mimicking her gestures and responding to imaginary conversations. Emperor Kael, dressed in ceremonial robes, adorned with glowing insignias, moved with precision. His eyes scanned the palace for any sign of his wife, confident that his plan would unfold without obstruction. He believed the queen would be isolated in her private chamber at a precise moment during the ceremony, unaware that every move he made had been anticipated. Alex activated subtle sound projections, footsteps, murmurs, and the soft rustling of ceremonial robes echoed through empty corridors. Kyle's attention divided. He paused repeatedly, trying to reconcile what he saw and heard with what he expected. The human mind thrived on unpredictability, and this was its advantage. As Kale approached the corridor leading to what he thought was Lyra's chamber, he froze. A holographic projection of the queen appeared before him, bowing slightly in greeting. He stepped forward, prepared to execute the final phase of his plan, but the image disappeared just as he reached it. At the same time, another decoy appeared, at the far end of the hall, drawing his attention. Kale's movements became uncertain, his confidence faltering for the first time in years. Lyra watched from her secure chamber, her heart pounding. "Alex, he's confused. This is working." Alex nodded. "Yes, Your Majesty, he cannot predict human creativity. Every step we take makes him question what he sees. The moment he doubts himself, we gain the advantage." Kale's frustration grew. He consulted his advisors, but the human's clever illusions and the subtle changes in palace security had created a maze of uncertainty. He could not find Lyra, and every path seemed to lead nowhere. His strategy, which had relied on precision and intimidation, was failing. Meanwhile, Alex continued to monitor and adjust the holographic decoys in real time. Each image moved realistically, responding to gestures, sounds, and light. The Emperor's attention was split between multiple targets that did not exist. Every attempt he made to corner Lyra led him further into confusion. At one point, Kyle paused near a central chamber. He suspected that the real queen was hiding there. He activated a small detection device designed to reveal any disguised presence. But Alex had already accounted for this. The device displayed false readings, showing the corridor is empty. Kale, convinced that his plan was working, took a step forward and then hesitated, uncertain again. Lyra leaned closer to the small viewing screen in her secure chamber. "Alex, how do you keep predicting him?" Alex smiled faintly. "Humans notice what others ignore. We combine logic with intuition. Kale is powerful, but he follows rules, routines, and assumptions. I exploit what he cannot predict. That is our advantage." Hours passed. The ceremony continued without interruption. Dignitaries observed the rituals and displays, oblivious to the silent battle of wits happening behind the scenes. Kale's frustration increased, yet he could not display it openly. His movements became erratic, retracing steps, checking corridors, repeatedly trying to locate the queen. Finally, Alex prepared the final phase of his plan. A holographic Lyra appeared near the main hall, bowing as though attending a ceremonial event. At the same time, subtle sound illusions suggested movement in hidden corridors. Kyle, drawn to the hologram, approached, and once again, it vanished. Simultaneously, Lyra quietly moved to a new secure location, unseen and protected. Kyle's plan had failed entirely. He had been outsmarted without a single violent confrontation. The human guard had used ingenuity, observation, and unpredictability to ensure the queen's safety. Kale's pride prevented him from showing defeat publicly, but his frustration was evident to anyone who knew him well. After the ceremony, Lyra emerged from her secure chamber, calm but resolute. She approached Alex, her eyes reflecting admiration and gratitude. "You did it. You outwitted him completely." Alex shrugged modestly. "No one is unbeatable, Your Majesty. Humans survive by thinking, adapting and acting at the right moment. Kyle underestimated the human mind, and that is why he failed. Lyra's lips curved into a small smile. I can see now why the council trusted you. Humans are clever, resourceful, unpredictable. I never realized how valuable your kind could be. Alex nodded. We survive because we adapt. We notice patterns, but we also improvise. Predictability is dangerous in a galaxy like this, and Kyle relied too much on order. He could not account for creativity. The Queen and her human guard spent the remainder of the evening reviewing the events of the ceremony. Alex carefully noted Kale's reactions, his mistakes, and the ways in which he had been misled. Lyra observed closely, learning from both Alex's strategy and his insight into human problem-solving. You know, Alex, Lyra said thoughtfully, your methods are different from anything I've seen in the Empire. You do not rely on power or intimidation. You rely on intelligence and foresight. That is remarkable. Alex smiled faintly. It is how humans survive. We are not the strongest, but we are clever, and cleverness is more important than brute strength when dealing with cunning opponents. Lyra's expression softened. I understand now. Intelligence and strategy can be more powerful than force, and humans, your kind, can change outcomes that seem impossible. Alex glanced around the palace, ensuring that Kale's movements no longer posed a threat. Kale may try again, Your Majesty, but now we have the advantage. We understand his patterns. We know his limitations, and humans are not easily predicted. That is our greatest strength. As the night deepened, the palace settled into a quiet rhythm. Dignitaries returned to their quarters, and the soft hum of technology filled the halls. Kyle retreated to his private chambers, plotting his next move, unaware that his plans had already been anticipated and countered. Lyra, reflecting on the events of the evening, realized something profound. Humans were not just outsiders in the Empire. They were beings capable of brilliance that even the most disciplined aliens could not foresee. Alex had proven this repeatedly, showing that ingenuity, creativity, and adaptability could overcome power, protocol, and intimidation. The Queen felt a renewed sense of hope and determination. With Alex by her side, she could face the challenges ahead. Kyle's schemes would continue, but the human guard had already demonstrated that cleverness could outmaneuver strength, and foresight could prevent disaster. Humans were clever, adaptable, and unpredictable. In a galaxy full of advanced civilizations, that was perhaps the most powerful ability of all. And so, in the shimmering palace of Xylaria, a queen and her human guard had woven a complex web of strategy, intelligence, and ingenuity. Kale's plots were countered, his power checked, and the stage was set for the next chapter in a story of cleverness, survival, and the extraordinary potential of the human mind. The celestial ceremony ended, but the battle of wits was far from over. The Emperor would not yield easily, and the palace remained a place of intrigue and hidden danger. Yet Lyra now understood the truth. With humans like Alex at her side, she could face the challenges ahead with confidence, strategy, and hope. The Empire had witnessed a quiet revolution of intelligence, one that did not rely on force, but on the cleverness and resourcefulness of a single human guard. And in the shadows of the palace, the future began to take shape, guided by wit, trust, and the brilliance of the human mind. The morning sun reflected off the palace towers, casting long rays across the courtyards of Xylaria. Queen Lyra stood at the balcony of her private chamber, her gaze stretching over the bustling grounds below. The celestial ceremony had ended hours ago, leaving behind a mix of admiration, awe, and quiet tension. The Empire's dignitaries had returned to their worlds, but within the palace the web of intrigue remained. Alex Mercer appeared beside her, moving with the quiet confidence of a human trained to observe and act without being noticed. "Good morning, Your Majesty," he said. "Kyle is still in his quarters, likely planning his next move, but for now the palace is calm." Lyra nodded, her violet eyes thoughtful. "I never realized the extent of his ambition," or his patience. Kyle is dangerous not because he is violent, but because he is clever. He studies patterns and waits for the right moment. Alex glanced at her. And that is why humans are important. We are unpredictable, we adapt, we notice what others do not. Kyle may be clever, but he cannot anticipate ingenuity that is creative and flexible. That is our strength. Lyra smiled faintly. I have seen that now, Alex. You have protected me, not by force, but by foresight, by cleverness, by thinking, in ways even the most disciplined aliens cannot imagine. For the next few days, Alex and Lyra worked together to strengthen her position in the palace. They reviewed the security systems, redesigned patrol routes, and used subtle illusions to create uncertainty for anyone who might seek to undermine her. The Queen began to understand that true power did not always come from control, but from knowledge, strategy, and the ability to outthink opponents. One evening, while reviewing palace records, Lyra turned to Alex with curiosity. Do humans always work like this? Quiet, clever, unnoticed? Alex chuckled softly. Not always. But humans survive by observation, adaptation, and ingenuity. We are often underestimated because we do not fit the expected pattern. That is why we succeed when others fail. Lyra nodded thoughtfully. Then perhaps the Empire has underestimated humans, not for their strength, but for their intelligence, their creativity, their ability to see solutions where others see only obstacles. Alex's gaze swept the palace corridors. Exactly. And that is why I remain at your side, Your Majesty. Kale cannot predict human thinking, and with that advantage, you can secure your position without resorting to violence. As the days passed, Kale's frustration grew. His attempts to isolate Lyra or manipulate palace systems were continually thwarted by clever human interventions. Every time he thought he had found a flaw in the Queen's defenses, Alex had anticipated it, redirecting his efforts and ensuring Lyra remained safe. Lyra, observing this, realized something profound. Alex, humans do not just react, they think ahead, they anticipate, they create opportunities rather than wait for them. That is powerful. Alex nodded. And it is why humans are valuable in any challenge, not because of force, but because of creativity, foresight, and adaptability. Kale relies on rules. We rely on ingenuity. The Queen decided it was time to act, not with confrontation, but with strategy. She called a council meeting, inviting all key advisors, including Kale. The room was filled with tension, but Lyra maintained her composure. Kale, she said calmly, we have had disagreements in the past, but I believe the Empire can achieve greater strength through cooperation, foresight, and careful planning. Power is not maintained through fear or secrecy. It is maintained through knowledge, strategy, and trust. Kale's eyes narrowed, but Lyra continued, I have observed and I have learned, and I am not alone. My human advisor has shown me ways to anticipate challenges and protect the Empire without confrontation. Your plans, while clever, are predictable, and that is where they fail. Alex remained silent, standing respectfully by Lyra's side. His presence alone reminded the Council and Kale that human ingenuity had played a decisive role in protecting the Queen. Kale's pride prevented him from openly admitting defeat, but he realized that his schemes had been anticipated and outsmarted. His authority was intact, but his influence over the Queen's decisions had weakened. Lyra's position was now secure, not through force, but through intelligence and strategy. After the council meeting, Lyra turned to Alex. You have not only protected me, Alex. You have helped me change the way the Empire thinks. We no longer need fear or deception to maintain strength. Cleverness and strategy are enough. Alex smiled. Humans have always survived this way, Your Majesty. We use our minds, our creativity, and our ability to adapt. That is why we thrive, even in worlds as advanced and dangerous as this. Lyra's eyes reflected admiration and gratitude. I now understand why the Council valued humans, and why I trust you more than anyone else in the palace. Over the following weeks, Lyra implemented subtle reforms in the palace. Security protocols were redesigned to reward clever observation and adaptive thinking rather than rigid obedience. Advisors were encouraged to suggest creative solutions to problems, and the Empire began to recognize that humans, far from being fragile outsiders, were beings of ingenuity and insight. Alex observed these changes with quiet satisfaction. His presence had not only safeguarded the Queen, but had also demonstrated the extraordinary value of human thought. Humans survived not because they were the strongest, but because they were clever, adaptable, and capable of seeing solutions others overlooked. One evening, as the stars shone over the palace, Lyra and Alex stood on the balcony, watching the soft glow of the city below. "Alex," Lyra said thoughtfully, "I see now that strength is not always about power. It is about strategy, intelligence, and the courage to act wisely. You have shown me that humans embody these qualities in ways even we, the most advanced of the Xylarian Empire, cannot fully understand." Alex smiled. "And that is why humans endure. We do not rely solely on power or size. We rely on ingenuity, observation, and adaptability. That is why we survive, and why we can help those we choose to protect." Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then let us continue this partnership, Alex. Together, humans and Xylarians can achieve something greater than any empire has seen before. Not through fear or control, but through strategy, intelligence, and trust." Alex nodded. "Agreed, Your Majesty. Together we can face any challenge. And Kale? Well, he will have to learn that cleverness cannot always be anticipated." In the months that followed, Lyra and Alex worked side by side, guiding the Empire toward a new era. Kale remained, but his influence was tempered by the recognition that human ingenuity was a force even he could not control. Lyra's reforms encouraged creativity, intelligence, and adaptive thinking throughout the palace. The Empire began to thrive not through intimidation or force, but through strategy, observation, and clever solutions. Lyra often reflected on the human guard who had changed her life. Alex's ability to anticipate, adapt, and act without relying on violence had not only protected her, but had also shown the potential of humans in a galaxy that had underestimated them. The Empire had learned a valuable lesson. Intelligence, creativity, and adaptability could achieve what force alone could not. One quiet evening, as the palace lights shimmered like stars, Lyra turned to Alex. "Humans are remarkable, not just for what they can do, but for how they think, how they adapt, and how they solve problems that others cannot even imagine." Alex smiled. "That is what makes us human, Your Majesty. Our strength lies in our minds, our courage, and our ability to see possibilities where others see only obstacles, and that is why I will always protect you." The Queen and her human guard stood in silence, gazing at the city below. The Xylarian Empire was vast, complex, and full of challenges, but Lyra felt hope, a rare, precious hope that came not from power or fear, but from trust, intelligence, and the quiet brilliance of a human mind. The Empire had witnessed the power of ingenuity and strategy. A single human had outsmarted an emperor, guided a queen, and changed the course of history, not with weapons or violence, but with foresight, creativity, and cleverness. And as the stars twinkled above, Lyra realized that humans were not merely visitors in the galaxy. They were partners, strategists, and visionaries, beings capable of extraordinary feats through the simple, yet profound power of thought. In the palace of Xylaria, a new era began, one where humans were recognized not for their strength but for their brilliance, one where cleverness triumphed over arrogance, strategy over intimidation, and trust over fear. Alex Mercer, the human guard, had shown that even in a galaxy of powerful aliens, intelligence, adaptability, and ingenuity could shine brighter than any weapon, stronger than any empire, and more enduring than fear itself. The Queen and her human guard had proven that true power lay not in domination, but in creativity, strategy, and the courage to act wisely. And in the heart of the Xylarian Empire, that lesson would endure for generations to come.